change, God. Each day a new step, God. God, we ask right now, God, we know that you are moving and that you're always on the move, God. But God, give us strength and encouragement and allow us to chase after you in your word, God. You have so much for us, God. If we're just willing to reach out and grab it this morning, just willing to reach out and grab it this morning, God has so much that he wants for you. Stop being satisfied where you're at. Stop being satisfied on exactly where you're walking right now. God has something new every day. Something greater every day. Strengthen this morning, God. Our hearts, God, to walk after you, God. God, if you are our world, if you're our life, God, show us how to chase after you more, God. Allow that spirit to stir inside of us this morning. Every Sunday, God, it seems to be the same in a lot of ways. But God, we ask this morning that it be different. God, you're the light of this world. God, that light is supposed to live within us. How much do we allow to shine out of us? It's easy for us to talk about our battles. It's easy for us to talk about how we keep stumbling and how things come against us. It's easy for us to talk about everything that just crashes and bombards us. It's easy to talk about a weakness. But God says, start setting that stuff aside and start speaking positive. He says, start speaking the positive things of his word. If you're walking after him and you're a child of his, walk after him. Speak the positive things about him and what he has done. We know that sickness is trying to overtake. We know that illness is trying to overtake. We know that government is falling. We know all things. But that the word says it's coming. The word says it's happening.
Yes.
But the positive side is every time it stumbles, every time it falls, every time a little bit begins to crumble, that means we're one step closer to an almighty God.
Praise God.
He says that we're going to, our flesh fails us. He says in the Bible, our flesh fails us. It's over in Psalm, and he said our heart fails us. He said, but God is the power of our heart.
Amen.
And he says God is the power. I want to show you the scripture just so that you know without a doubt that it says this in Psalms, and if I'm mistaken, it's chapter 74.
Hallelujah.
Here, Steph, read this. I got it highlighted right here. What does that say?
My flesh and my heart fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever.
So if you're a child of God and you're really believing and trusting God, we know that the flesh, we know that this old body, we know that this old thing is coming. It's going to steadily. But we also know there's power in God that's going to help us keep walking.
Amen.
But we know that even when it starts to fail, that God says there's something greater. But we have such a tendency to talk about the low. But God says the times that right now is to start talking about the high times.
Amen.
Who he is, what he has done, and what he is going to do. See, we keep accepting, Sister Sean, people keep accepting what God's throwing on us. We keep accepting, so, well, I can't get past it, I can't get away from it. I just have to live with it. We keep accepting that, but God says we don't have to accept it. He didn't say just in the spiritual realm, he said also in this one.
Come on, brother.
He said also in this one.
Come on.
We can start speaking the positive things. But the thing about it is, if you want something of God, make a change. We say, well, what more can I get? What more can I do? Well, how much have you stood? God stood, spikes in his feet, arms stretched, hanging on a piece of wood.
Come on.
You know, and he did not jerk himself down or call the angels to pull himself down. But he stood for us.
Amen.
How many of us took 5 minutes out of our week? 5 minutes and just stopped and raised our hands.
Hallelujah.
Just stopped and raised our hands.
Thank you, Jesus.
This week, how many of us just stopped and raised our hands this week and said, no, I'm going to take 5 minutes, God, not about my job, my kids, my family, my housework, anything. I just want to stand for 5 minutes for you, God, because you stood a lifetime for me.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Isn't that what he said? He gives life, an abundant life. He said that what he gave us was for eternity.
Yes.
So can I faithfully stand up and say that he did it for life for me? He stood for life for me.
Amen.
For me to have a walk.
Amen.
For me to have something positive.
That's good preaching.
That's for each and every one of us, isn't it? He said if you're his child, that's for each and every one of us, didn't he?
That's right.
Each and every one.
That's for each and every one of us.
Each
He
one
says,
of us.
trust and believe.
Yeah.
Trust and believe is what he said. But let me tell you, you're only going to get what you... How many times we heard this? You're only going to get
What
what you're putting into it.
Put into it.
You're only going to get what you reach out and grab.
Amen. Hallelujah.
They talk about the platter, a plate, the food that God has laid out. But you're never going to get one bean on your plate if you don't get up and you don't start to put them onto your plate to begin to eat it.
That's right.
You got to start filling up what you want.
Come on, man. Good preaching.
Man, this negativity is dragging people down in this Christian world. We was talking about it this morning, about the churches being empty. Well, if you read the word and it says the falling away, and they know it, they will preach about the falling away, but they will not walk through a door to know what God can do for them.
Amen.
That's right.
They will not stand up and pick up the word of God to see that it has truth
Come
to
on.
it.
Amen.
Amen.
They're singing these songs this morning. You are my world. You're everything. Is he?
Yeah.
Can you really truly say he is?
Come on, brother.
Hallelujah.
That's good preaching.
Can you really truly say, if God was to walk down, if Jesus was to walk in here and just sit down beside you and say, I stood for you, what are you doing for me?
Come on.
We've only been in this service, how long this morning? An hour, hour and a half? What have you done for him just an hour and a half since you've been inside of what we
Hallelujah.
consider the sanctuary? Where is God? Where's that spirit that we say is abiding in us?
Come on.
That's what he said, he's abiding in me, abiding in you.
Amen.
If that spirit abides in you, where are we walking with? What are we standing on this morning?
Come on.
Where are we trusting and believing him at?
Good preaching, brother. Come on.
I understand that there's a lot of people that can't stand, there's a lot of people that can't raise their hands. But he had his arms stretched out
Amen.
after beaten and battered and nailed. And you can say, well, he had no choice. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you did have a choice.
He had a
You sure
choice.
did.
He had a choice.
Amen.
Oh no, the soldiers had no power. He told them from the very beginning, you don't have no power over me except what the Father gives you.
Amen.
That's what he told them. The only power they had was what the Father gave them. If you really want to see God move, you're going to have to start stepping into what he has. I'm telling you, we all know the time is closer.
Amen.
We all know the time is getting closer. Why would you not want to worship a mighty God?
Amen.
That's right.
Why would you not, if you was able, to just reach forth and say, I'll praise you.
Amen.
I'll praise you. Whether anybody else will or not, I'll praise you.
Yes.
Praise God.
Why is it
Hallelujah.
that if we could stand for just a moment
Yes.
and say, I'll stand
Father,
for
we
you.
glorify you today, Lord.
Hallelujah.
Father, we magnify you.
I don't understand everything about the Word, but I know God says to trust Him, and He will make all things possible.
Yes, amen.
Trust Him, and He'll do it.
Yes, He will.
He says He carries the burdens when we lay them upon Him.
Yes, he does.
It's just trusting and believing.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
If you just begin to close your eyes right now. If everybody would close their eyes right now and just reach your hand to heaven and just accept something that God would give them this morning. Would you give God enough to say, Father, I will praise you. I will praise you. God, I will praise you. Jesus, I'll never let you go. And I know that you'll never let me go. I'll praise you. are the foundation. God, you created all things because you loved us. You gave us life. God, give us a will inside of our hearts this morning, God, to walk after you. To walk after you, God. To trust in you, God. Oh, God, that your name is above all names. Jesus, ask that the Spirit just stirs this morning. Stir this morning. Oh God, we need you this morning, God. God, we need you more than ever. God, we need you more than ever. God, teach us to walk after you, God. To chase after you, God. Even when things are crashing, God, we still speak positive, God, because you are God of all things. Greater are you, and greater are you that lives in me. God, we need you this morning. God, we need you this morning. God, you said that same Spirit that rose Jesus from the dead lives inside of us. That you give us power and authority over everything that keeps coming and crashing against us. That is positive today, God. Strengthen today, Lord. God, if nothing else, I praise you and I thank you, God, because there's no way that I can ever thank you enough for just dying on the cross. Reaching down and pulling me out of the depths of hell, of this old world that I was living in. I can't thank you enough. That every breath that I take, God, it's a reminder that you gave it to me. I love you this morning. How much do you love the Lord this morning? How much do you love Him this morning? How much do you love Him this morning?
I will worship you until the very end.
Worship you this morning.
My Savior, my closest friend, I will worship you until the very end.
Hallelujah. See, I told a story a month or so ago about the little boy walking down the road with Jesus beside him. Come up to that old rickety bridge. And the boy says, let me hold your hand. Jesus told him no. He said, let me hold your hand. Because this old rickety bridge sometimes will let go. But no matter how rickety the old bridge is, Jesus never lets go. He never lets go. He never lets go. He says sometimes that old rickety bridge, when that board falls, you may slip down. And then you begin to look back, saying it's closer to go back there to what it is to get to there. He says, yeah, but if you hold on to me, we're going to make it to the next good board. He said, but you got to hold on. He says, so if you just keep your hand up like this sometimes, he says that means You're doing your part. And he says, as long as you keep doing your part, he's going to keep hanging on and doing his part. And he's going to keep walking you across that old rickety bridge. Even when you're looking down, he says, no, you're looking down. And you see it's a long ways down. There's rocks. There's a heavy current in that old river down below you. If you fall, you ain't going to come out of it sometimes. But if you hold on, with that hand in the air, Jesus said you ain't letting go. He said that current has no power over you. The current will push you, Marky. It'll push you all around it. That river will show him boats everywhere. That old river's drowned many people. But we got a life preserver. We got a life preserver. That when you mess with him up, you zip him up and you put them old snaps together, he ain't letting go. They can't get him off. The river can't push it off. The river can't snatch. He said no principalities. Nothing can take it away from you. So as long as you keep looking and you keep your hand reaching, he's going to keep holding on. That means nothing can pull you away from him. That means that current's going to fly and push, but he's still holding on. Your head's staying above water. That means you still got breath. That means you still got life. You just got to keep on walking with him. Keep on holding on to him. Don't look to the left and to the right. And quit worrying about all the problems. Start looking at the positive things. That one day, we're walking on the streets of gold. That one day, we're going to look to the left and look to the right. And there's going to be angels walking with us. That one day, you're going to be able to sit down in the throne. And there's an almighty God. We're going to look down and see the stone in his feet and in his hands. That one day, when you see a picture, when he breaks to the eastern sky, oh, the train's coming. Who's going to be the train with him? Who's going to be the train with him? Somebody's got to be riding with him. Somebody's got to be pushing the power with him. He says, I give it to you. Follow me. He says, follow me through the sky. We can't keep sitting back and thinking about the negative when God says he's got so much more to give us. When he reaches down, Marky, and you make it to that throne room there, and he's standing before the pearly gates. But the next thing you see is a set of hands that has holes in them. And he says, I know your name. He says, guess where you're going? He says, oh, I welcome you, my faithful servant. I welcome you, my faithful servant. We got something to live for. We got a positive thing to look at. We got something positive to think about. We got something positive to grasp a hold of. And God says he's with us every day. God says he's living inside of us. God, you know what I like? He says, when I accepted him, he said, that holy blood flows. Guess what? It flows through you, Sister Charlotte. It flows through each and every one. When you accept him, he says, now, he ain't just talking about a new creation that you see on the outside. Oh, but it's what's flowing inside. It's what's flowing inside. You got to be willing to say, positive. God, I'm going to be one. I'm going to be one when I see the voice. And it starts to shake the earth. He says when the heavens and the earth begin to shake, he said the earth is going to move out of its orbit. It's going to begin to turn different. Where do you think that power is coming from? That's the power that God says we have. We have to start thinking positive about everything that's crashing, everything that's falling, everything that's breaking and coming to pieces. We got to start thinking positive about it. Say, no God, you said, I read it, I believe it, and I will stand on it. God, positive things today. God, and let it flow. We got to let that begin to flow out of our mouth. We got to let when people hear it, it's always a positive word. I don't know, Brother Bob. You just don't know what I've been facing. Oh, but guess what? God knew it before I knew it. But God said he had a different plan for you. Now you got to step up and walk in the power of it. Walk in the power of his plan. Not of this world's plan. Not of this world's plan. We worry about these earthquakes, we worry about these hurricanes, but God says, guess what? He says they're getting greater and greater and greater. He says, you know why? Because there's a bigger something at the end. There's a bigger something at the end. That's the positive thing we think of. We know God helped the people who's going through it, but you know what? We understand God helped the people that's going through all these tragedies. We understand praying that, but God says in these tragedies, who has been lifted? Who has been lifted? Is it him? Are we lifting him? We say, oh no, God, you are the creator. You know, are we lifting God saying, yeah, they might have went through an earthquake, but God was so much greater. So much greater than something you had for him in store.
Come on.
So much things he has greater in store. The Word of God says, so much greater things in store for the ones that trust him, for the ones that believe him. We have to start allowing ourselves to bring up the positive things in God in our lives. Stop staring. Stop writing down the negative things in our lives and start writing the positive things down in our lives.
Amen.
Come on.
We got a life here, and God says it's a book of life. If you're a child of God, guess what? He wrote this for you.
Amen. Yes.
This tells you how to walk, how to talk. He said, this is you.
Yes. Hallelujah.
He said he wrote your book.
Come on.
Are you living it? Are you living it now?
Live by it.
Come on.
He said he wrote the book. Are you living with it now? He says this book talks about power.
Thank you, Jesus.
He said this book talks about authority.
Amen. Yes.
He
it
says
does.
this book talks about power. This book talks about authority
Yes, it does.
that we have. That we have. That
Yes.
he gave it to us.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Come on, man. That's good preaching.
Praise God. Hallelujah.
God.
Glory. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Father, we just thank you. Praise you, Father God. You're Almighty God. Father, we thank you for sending your Son. Father, there's the holes in his hands and in his side and in his feet.
Jesus, we praise you today, Father. Praise you today. We praise you
Father,
today.
that we might worship you, glorify you.
Praise you today.
Father, that our eyes are always on you.
Praise you.
Father, for there is nothing greater. Father, we worship you, Lord. All power and glory and honor and majesty belongs to you, Lord. Holy are you, holy are you,
Every day we're one step closer, church. For the ones that are trusting God.
worship you.
For the ones that are believing in an almighty God. For the ones that are believing in Jesus died on the cross. Every day we're one day closer. Every day. Every day.
Strengthen us.
Every morning we open our eyes, Brother Walter. Jesus says we're one day closer to Him if we're trusting Him. One day closer to Him. Every day. We're not getting farther away. We're still trusting God. Every day that goes by, He says we're getting closer. He says the time is getting nearer. He said the time is getting nearer. He's been quoting the time is getting nearer since the Old Testament. All the way through. So if that was getting nearer for Him back then, how much closer is it now for us?
Hallelujah, Jesus. Come, Lord Jesus.
When we're raising our hands and we're surrendering and we're saying, God, we praise you.
Father, we know that everything is
It's not
in
just
your
little
time.
things, but it's for all things. He has so much more.
Father, let us be about the Father's business.
So much more.
Father, to bring in the lost. Father, your word said, go ye therefore. Holy are you. Holy are you.
It's coming to the point in your life. Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied where you're at? Because if you're satisfied where you're at, that's all you're going to get. If you're satisfied where you're at, He has no reason to keep pouring out. If you're satisfied where you're at, He has no more need. But if you're not satisfied where you're at, then He's not done. If you're not satisfied where you're at, keep stepping. If you're not satisfied where you're at, keep stepping. Keep worshiping. Keep thanking the Almighty God. There's not a warehouse, Sister Israel is not a warehouse on this earth. They can have enough boxes packed in. Not enough boxes packed in a warehouse on this earth. But God says, so He has to trust Him. It's not a warehouse. And I know I've seen some big warehouse. We built some big warehouses. Blocks upon blocks, 6 blocks. That would take care of millions of people. But God says that's nothing compared. There's nothing compared to what He has in store for you. That's nothing compared to what He has in store for you. If you just believe.
To be